Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live happening right now during lunchtime, of course. We're just waiting for one of our speakers to join us, and we'll be starting soon. So get yourselves comfy. We have a very interesting conversation happening today. Get your popcorn ready, coffee, hot cocoa, all the good stuff. And let's see. You have your coffee ready? That's awesome. Okay, we're just waiting for someone else, but I would like to take this time to remind everyone that Whitman-Walker is currently doing, or we're offering free HIV and STD testing. We're going to be putting info on the chat section. And hello, Dee, how are you doing today?
Hey, how are you?
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm just going to introduce myself real quick. So my name is Kevin. I usually work a lot behind the scenes. I'm with community health. I'm a community health supervisor. My pronouns are he, him, his.
Hi, and I'm Dee, and I am in the External Affairs Department. I'm working around training, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction, Dee. Now we're going to go ahead and get started. So now I'd just like to remind everyone that this is a series that we're doing regarding medical mistrust and COVID-19 vaccines. So we're going to be doing a lot more of these. And yeah, Dee, why don't you get us started? You have a lot of great information to share with us.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm really honored to have this spot to talk about medical mistrust. I've been hearing a lot of feeling information over the last few months, really talking about Black folks in particular, but people of color at large, writ large, how we're working with the development of vaccines and how we're taking advantage or waiting around that. And I really started out thinking that I wanted to acknowledge why people have distrust, and I certainly want to do that. But I don't want to weigh you down with a lot of, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened.
Definitely.
We're going to share some things in the chat that might be information to some of you or enlighten you in some way about things that have happened. I think we're all pretty well aware of Tuskegee and the harm that was done to many Black men around their sexual health. And, you know, the bottom line is they were told they were being treated and they were not. And this went on for 30 some years. Only when somebody flagged it and said, oh my God, these people are not being treated and they are subsequently dying and suffering, was the experiment stopped.
That sounds just absolutely horrible, Dee. And, you know, just having that in the back of our minds, you know, we sort of can understand how a lot of people are, you know, skeptical about this, right? They're hesitant, and, you know, there's just a lot of distrust in our community, and we can see that it's generational, as you've stated, right? This Tuskegee experiment happened a while back, but, you know, it wasn't not too long ago, right?
In my mind, it's not very long ago. And what I've been working with in my thinking is this idea of community memory and legacy, how we share information either directly or indirectly. So before I read about Tuskegee, I already had the texture of be careful around your medical care and doctors, be wary in those situations. And I just, you know, I took that as part of my grooming, part of my growing up. This is what you learn. But only as I started to really look at how we got to a place did I learn about not only Tuskegee, but again, other incidents that led to this kind of texture of not trusting. So there's that, but there's also the actual interactions that people had when they went to medical providers. Were providers treating them? Could they see them? Were they treating them as human beings when they showed up? And often the reports are from my elders, my
Mm-hmm.
parents, that they were not. That things were, I mean, my mom relays health situations that still today she cannot piece together, situations that wound up in surgery, that she could not piece together to tell me really what happened and what was done. So that's a big deal in terms of
Definitely.
understanding.
Absolutely. And Dee, if you could share a little bit more about your experience with needles, what
Yeah.
that's like, and with all of this in mind and consideration, the historical context, which is very important. What has your experience been like?
It's been interesting. I mean, I have, my own personal experience as a child and an adult. And we were talking a bit earlier about, I grew up here in DC. This is my
Mm-hmm.
home. And
DC
so,
native.
yeah, man, like one of the one of the few here. Um, when I was a child, we were often delivered vaccines or medications through schools. And that is an effective way to disseminate. You got kids, you got the vaccine, great. Except there was this piece of informed consent
Mm,
that
okay.
I had a sense of it as a child that I did not truly understand what was being given to me and how my parents understood it. But generally, we were, the one I shared with you is, I think, a measles vaccine
Okay.
that we were given on a sugar cube. Literally,
Mm,
somebody would dose the cube and then put it in your mouth. And the permission slip that went home with us was no bigger than this.
wow. Yeah.
We're going to give your kids this thing, sign your name. Some kids signed their parents' name because they forgot the slip. Parents read this, but they didn't know what their kids were actually getting. There was no information.
Right.
And then there was also a piece where if you tell children, I'm going to give you sugar,
Mm-hmm.
some kids got in line several times, and
To
we
get the
don't
sugar.
know. We don't know what any of that
Mm-hmm.
meant. They didn't understand medicine or chemical and sugar. Kids heard sugar and did that. And this, so I'm saying the dosing looked harmless to us. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm bringing that, yes, over the course of my life, polio vaccine, measles vaccine,
Mm-hmm.
all these things, and yes, I've taken advantage over time. But I got to tell you that often it's been a leap of faith. And I think if we can do better in terms of acknowledging, one, that people's mistrust is grounded in reality. We're not having an overblown reaction to something historic. It's right next to us. It's still right here,
Definitely.
and that mistrust is well grounded. But we have to, as a community, be able to rationalize how we can still use these tools of medicine and interact with the system effectively for us.
And making this information available, right? Of course, you think you touched on something really interesting on having the information readily available so that, we have that informed consent, right? I'm just going to take a quick time to see if anyone has any comments. We are, of course, if this is a discussion, so anyone, if they have any thoughts, any comments, feel free to jump in. But no comments so far that I can see here. And we just want to remind folks once again that Whitman-Walker is offering COVID testing. You can call the main phone number. And also, we still continue doing HIV and STD testing by appointments. So thank you, Dee, so much for sharing all that information. It's very important to tackle that mistrust head on, especially now with the distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine,
Right,
right?
right. It sounds like well, again, focusing on Black folks, Black community, Brown community, that our uptake is not at the same level. Now,
Hmm.
I think that there might be or have been issues around distribution and who's taking advantage in the distribution spots, how that's working. But um, the community itself, the messaging I'm hearing now is that we're resistant. I don't think we're resistant. I think we have hesitation built on actual information, whether we have that hard information or not. This is not an unfounded, more slowly adopting, maybe late adopting of the vaccine.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now,
So,
we do have a question here in the comment section. Is the COVID testing
oh, I'm not hearing you.
Sorry. There's a question here in the chat. It says, is the COVID testing only for Whitman-Walker health patients? So thank you so much for that question. At this time, we are offering COVID testing for patients and non-patients. Even if you don't have any symptoms, you can call us for sometimes same day or next day appointments. If we don't have any appointments available, we'll give you more information or other places where you can get information to get tested. So definitely call us at our main line, and the information has been in the comment section. But thank you for that question.
And Kevin, if I could just tag in there, I went on site for only the second time since last March.
Oh,
Yeah. And
been
I
a long
have to,
time.
yeah, long time. And I have to say that the way the triage works, the way we enter the building, how we get to where we need to get, if folks are having hesitancy
Hesitations.
about coming to the space, I will say I felt, and I'm pretty quarantined. I stay to myself. I felt safe in that space. I felt safe entering, doing the business I needed to do, and leaving. I felt cared for and seen
Mm-hmm.
at each step, and not just because people. Well, some people knew me and some people didn't. We're all covered, so maybe not. But it just felt like there's a good flow, and people are being managed well. So
I can
just put
definitely
that out.
attest to that. We do the same thing in our testing rooms. Cleaning and disinfecting, so it's very safe, very clean. Come on over for testing. Call us COVID testing, HIV, STI testing. Wonderful. So let's continue with our conversation. Dee,
Sure.
I would like to share my experience as well. Thanks so much for sharing your experience. So for myself, I grew up in Mexico. I was born and raised in Mexico. I'm an immigrant. I think for us, immigrant folks, there can be a little bit of distrust, when it comes to giving out our information, right? Is it going to go to someone else? What are they going to do with my information? But we have to keep in mind that, we have legislation put in place for, handling medical information, right? The HIPAA, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act in the
Yep.
90s, right? Which is big. And knowing that everything that we do as far as a health clinic and as far as all the efforts that we're doing is through informed consent, right?
Yes.
That's always been very key. And with myself, I was always scared of needles.
Hmm.
I never really fully trusted medical doctors growing up, and going to the doctor. It was just, I just felt like they didn't know me, or didn't know what I was going through, or if they would really know what I needed. So there was hesitation in reaching out, and definitely being afraid of needles, and of even thinking that there could be poison in it, right?
Yeah.
As a kid growing up, just heard so many wild stories. But it's important to remind ourselves that there's been a lot of advancements. um, this vaccine wasn't necessarily rushed, right? It was a technology that's been in research for, I think, over 20 years, right? So
Yes.
um, I think, there have been bad experiences, of course. And I think most of us have had, experiences going to the doctor where we were just like, hold on a minute, this didn't feel right, right?
Right.
But we must continue to see the advancements, right? And who are the folks that need the information, and all the information that we have available. Um, So yes, for myself, luckily, I haven't had many bad experiences with medical providers, except for one where I didn't really think I was getting the care that I needed, and I simply asked to see another provider. Right,
Hmm.
that's also an option, and I definitely started asking a lot of questions. That was something that you mentioned, the sharing your story, right? The importance of getting that information and asking if something isn't clear.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just gonna pause real quick to see because we have another comment here in the comment section that says, "Do you have any examples of other experimental situations that contributed to the mistrust?" So do you
I
mind
do. No, I
talking
don't
more a
mind
little
at
bit
all.
about some of those experiments?
I will. I'll kind of paint with a broad brush. As I said, the links I share will take you to detail. There is a book or a few books I could recommend to you. Medical Apartheid
Mm,
is a book that I've spent a lot of time with over the last few months. It's the way she relays the particular experiments are almost journalistic, and they need to be because some of this is just the horror of it can take you away. So there's no flowery business in there. She does settle on talking pretty much from the beginnings of this country, talking about how African folks were viewed and that three-fourths of a man, less than human. So the strata of white supremacy was already in place. That
mm,
allowed medical people, such as they were, to not see black bodies, alive or dead, as fully human, so that experiments were done on women, particularly if we look at this man Sims.
mm,
A gynecologist, and I use that term loosely. But his claim was being able to fix a birth issue, a birthing issue that would happen to women, and a lot of black women were reported to having this fistula that caused um, during childbirth this tear happened, and it caused people to be incontinent.
that sounds
Well,
horrible.
it does sound horrible, and we have to wonder why a natural thing like childbirth would cause this, but that's a whole nother situation. But in his quest to fix this for people in Europe, I mean, that's, and these were enslaved women often he was working on. So the idea with their owners was that this put people back into production. So you didn't want to have somebody with a real problem because then they could not work and they could
Mm,
not reproduce. You see, it was all about building wealth. Um, Women were operated upon, examined uh, in a surgical way with no anesthetic.
mm,
Some of this was based on the idea that black skin, therefore black bodies, did not experience pain in the same way.
yeah.
So a lot of work went around like that. And the name that rises to the top in this particular case is Henrietta Lacks. I think
Mm,
there's been a film and a lot of writing, but Henrietta herself was had these experiences of having cells removed from her body without her consent.
mm-hmm.
These cells continue to be used and have been of great benefit to many women in their health. However, the idea that part of this woman's body was removed has been used. People have made big money
Yeah.
around this. She never realized any benefit, neither did her family. And it's the general exploitation that this can happen. So that's one that stands out, one that people know about, and I think I have more detail in the
Thank you
links that
so
I
much
share.
for sharing that. And someone did make mention in the comments that's the Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks.
Yes,
So I believe that's the title. Correct me if I'm wrong. Um,
that's
but
it.
great book, great read. We also have another comment from someone. Hey, Whitman-Walker, love you all. Heather's brother, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And yes, I believe we were gonna share that info in the comments section. If not, we'll share it sometime later in the future, of course. Um, but yeah, thank you, Dee, for sharing that. I wanted to take some time now to talk about some myths. If we still have time, I believe we're still a little bit good on time.
Yeah.
So, Dee, as always, thank you so much for that insight and that knowledge. But let's just go real quick over some myths. All right, when it comes to medical mistrust. So, along with mistrust, of course, there's also a lot that can be said about misinformation, right? And the information that we're getting right now is very important, especially surrounding the COVID-19 vaccine. So, I'll quickly share some of them and share some facts as well regarding the COVID-19 vaccine for folks. So, the first myth that I have here, I'm just going to have to cheat a little bit because I'm going to have to read on the side.
It's all good.
The vaccine trial did not include Black and Brown communities.
Not true.
So it's actually correct. It's not true. So there were approximately 70,000 people included in the clinical trials, Black and Brown folks. So we did see a bigger inclusion when it came to this. This included people of all races, ethnicities, and genders. So we definitely had some diversity when it came to the vaccine trials. Another myth that we have here, the vaccine can be harmful to Black and Brown communities. Um, so we have strong evidence that the vaccines are safe and they're effective for everyone, for all races and ethnicities. The results from the studies are not based on race. Um, and the effectiveness, right, is equal among all participants, regardless of race. And once again, touching back on how this came to be, right? I know there was a lot of conversations about how this vaccine was through Project Warp Speed, and the previous administration would talk about it, but this is technology that's been in research for over 20 years, right? So it's not something that just came out of the blue. And then I have the last one, D, right here, that says the COVID vaccine is not effective. So we know, D, from what we know, is that there are two COVID vaccines on the market in the US right now, which are from Pfizer and Moderna. And almost, scientists have concluded that both vaccines have an efficacy of over 90%. So that's really good. It's great. And for reference, the seasonal flu vaccine is 50%. That one I actually didn't know because and of course we encourage folks to get the flu vaccines whenever they can. Of course for seasonal flu, but yeah, the COVID vaccine seems to be much more efficient and effective than the flu vaccine. I did not know that the actually.
I did know that. And, I was one of those people that got really bad flu one year. I mean, I was out for 3 weeks. I mean, in bed.
Wow.
And ever since then, how I weigh it out, do I want to, am I looking forward to taking this vaccine? No. But I know that I do not want my experience of having the flu again. So that's the balance, is what am I looking at if I don't protect myself? And so for me, that's how I weigh any of it now. I know what the bad thing looks like. So
Definitely. And, reminding folks that we're getting the vaccines to protect ourselves, and also, to protect others, right? To
yes.
lower transmission among the community, to continue practicing social distancing and washing our hands and good hygiene,
Yeah.
and all the good stuff. So we're just going to take a quick look here at the comments section. No more comments for now, other than thank you for your great knowledge, Dee, from someone in the comment section. So once again, thank you, Dee, for all that wonderful information and insight. And then just a quick reminder, folks, if you have questions, comments, or concerns, please always talk to your medical provider. If you're a patient with us, you can call us at 202-797-4439. We're here, happy to help and have these open conversations with you all. And I think, yeah, we're about to wrap
Amen.
up the.
Well, it's been wonderful to work with you and talk with you today, Kevin. I felt like we had a good conversation, and I learned a lot from you. So great.
Thank you. Definitely, I can say the same. Of course. Thank you for sharing your experience and your story and coming in this space. Now, we would just like to remind folks to continue following CDC guidelines. Even if you've gotten your vaccine, even if you've gotten your second dosage, continue to wear a mask, of course, that covers both your nose, your mouth, practicing physical distancing. I know we don't have masks on, but we're
at
from
home.
home today, teleworking, right? Um, and yeah, continue to follow us on social media. Follow us here on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, at Whitman-Walker, and also at Real Talk DC. Um, Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Dee, any last words?
No, it's just I feel really lucky to be able to have this conversation and for us to share this information with folks. So everyone have a really good and safe weekend. The last bit we share with you is the thing: mask, wash your hands, social distance. It's not done yet. Keep working. Okay.
Definitely.
All
Thank you
right.
so much, everyone. Stay safe, and we'll see you at the next live. Continue to
Peace.
follow us for more updates.
Bye.
Bye.